All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. Today, I'm actually really excited about this episode because this is something that I was really kind of thinking about in the last couple of weeks, because one of the biggest things that I have noticed, not just with our clients, but also with our audience, is as we are approaching the end of the year, the new year, a lot of people struggle with their mindset, with trying new things, trying new strategies, not being good at different types of content creation. And a lot of times when we are approaching the end of the year and also going into the beginning of the year, we really take a lot of time to think about our marketing and our sales habits. We take a lot of time to think about what we could be doing differently, implementing new strategies, trying new things, right? And with that comes us not being the best at those things. You know, anytime you try something new, a lot of times you don't really do a very good job. Because you're just learning that skill. And on top of that, I would say anytime, things aren't going according to plan, you can get down on yourself really, really easily and feel like you literally suck at everything. And so I had a conversation with our accelerator girls, maybe like a month or so ago, where I kind of talked about like embracing the suck a little bit. And so I kind of wanted to bring that to our podcast just because I really want you guys to understand like my mindset, I would say, around marketing and sales, because there is so much to it. And I also think that the biggest part of any successful business owner is their mindset and their habits. And obviously that transfers to marketing and to sales. So I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that today. So let's dig into it without further ado. And I do want to give just a little disclaimer that this episode might feel a little bit like a roast in a way, but it's not meant to be a roast. There are just so many habits and behaviors and stories that I have seen you guys tell yourselves that I really kind of want to call you out on a little bit. So if there's ever an episode or a pep talk that you need in order to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and switch the channel in your brain and make a different decision as a business owner, save this one, because you're going to want to play it probably over and over and over again. So to help you understand a little bit more about kind of like the embracing the suck and the mindset behind this, I want to tell you guys kind of like a personal story of mine, I would say, from my own life. Because trust me when I say I'm not just out here like talking out of my ass and just being like, oh my God, you guys, I never struggle with mindset stuff. Or like, I always feel confident and I'm always excited about what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. No. But the reason, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, the reason why I am where I am today is two reasons. Number one, I'm incredibly hard on myself and I have very high expectations of myself. And number two, my mental game is on lock, you guys. There is not a moment in time where I allow myself to stay in a negative mindset, to get imposter syndrome. Those things still happen to me. Let's be clear. Those things still happen because I am human, but I am so self-aware that I can recognize when they happen. Like I said, switch the channel in my brain and move forward to have a better result. And in my opinion, because I have spent a lot of time around really successful business owners who are incredibly resilient, one of the core reasons why so many of them are incredibly successful is because of their tenacity, their drive, their mental game, their ability to push through difficult situations. And so I need you to understand that I am human and I struggle with things mindset wise, just like everybody else does. But the reason why I am where I am today, the reason why I am so successful is truly because of my mental game and embracing the suck. So let's talk about this personal story. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, about a year ago today, I made a decision. I'm still coughing, wild. About a year ago, I made the decision to take my physical health more seriously. To give you some context, it is November when I'm filming this, and last year in November, I had a very traumatic situation happen to me that I have really not shared about very much. I don't know if I will, Anyways, so had a very, very difficult situation happen to me that affected me very physically and very mentally and very emotionally. And so because of that, I turned to not eating a lot. I turned to consistently working out, like overworking out. I turned to drinking a bottle of wine every single night. I turned to some really unhealthy coping habits. And I had this realization after Thanksgiving, because my whole family came over, and I have never talked about this, but I was literally like blackout drunk. It was so bad. I just said things and behaved in a way that I was like, this is just not who I am. And so I basically made the decision to snap out of it. I was like, okay, this has gotten really serious. And I was going to therapy at the time, but I wasn't being truthful with my therapist, as a lot of us typically aren't. So I made her fully aware of the whole situation, of how I wasn't coping well, and all of the things that I was doing, and how I wasn't taking my physical health seriously, and basically like could barely get through the day without feeling like I was going to pass out. And it was just bad. Anyways, long story short, I made the decision about a year ago that I was going to start to take my physical health far more seriously than I was. Started eating better, cut out alcohol for the most part, and I started working out again because I had gotten out of that habit essentially. So I decided that I was going to try spin, because I used to be a really big runner, and that was one of the things that really helped me relieve stress. I hurt my knee, couldn't run anymore. And so I was like, okay, spin feels like a really great alternative to that. So started to do spin, was really loving how I was feeling. And I met one of the spin instructors who I really clicked with. Her name is Peach. Shouted her out before in our podcast episode. She's absolutely phenomenal. But I ended up asking her about personal training, because I obviously stalked her on Instagram, talk about marketing. And so we started working together. And if anyone has ever been in a scenario where they used to work out really consistently, and they used to lift really heavy weights or run really far distances, or they just used to be a lot better than they were, and like took a break, came back to it, and you're like, well, now I suck, right? That's how I was feeling. At the beginning of COVID, I was running like 8 miles a day. Before that, I was like deadlifting my whole body weight. I hurt my back doing that. There was just a whole bunch of things, right? So I came back to working out. I love working out. But I had this realization that I basically was starting from scratch, right? And I have this memory of doing an exercise, I think it was Bulgarian split squats, truthfully, which I still hate, honestly. But I have this memory of doing Bulgarian split squats with a weight that was a lot heavier than I had ever done before, which in total, it really was probably like 15 pounds. It really wasn't that heavy, but it was like a move I had never done before. I was off balance. I wasn't super, like talented in this area, essentially, because it was something that I had never done before. The weight was a lot heavier than I was used to. And I was starting to get like really actively frustrated with myself that I wasn't performing to a higher extent. In fact, I literally had this conversation with my trainer last night, where I was so like frustrated that I wasn't better at this already. And it was really funny, because we were having this conversation and she was like, you are so used to being so good at things right off the bat that you need to understand that like most people suck for a really long time when they start working out with me, until they start to get to the place where you're in. We just started working together, and you just started working out again, and you're over here complaining that like you're not doing a good enough job. And you literally just started doing this a couple of weeks ago. Like, you need to basically embrace that beginning part, embrace that sucking phase, because you have to go through that in order to get better. And she was like, this is actually the really cool part if you think about it. Like, getting better at something or being really good at something naturally is like, yeah, that's cool. But this is like the work. This is you being in this place where you're like, screw it, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to hit my goals. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to work hard. And then when you do get better, you can look back and say, I didn't give up through that phase, through that really sucky phase. And that's why I am where I am today. And it was really funny, because she was basically telling me, she was like, this discomfort that you're dealing with right now, like this is the way to reaching your goals. it's not the obstacle. And it's interesting because my business coach has often said, like, the obstacle is the opportunity. And so if you really think about it, like, any sucky part or any like difficulty that you're experiencing right now, or that I was experiencing in that moment, is really truly like this opportunity for growth. I was in a spin class the other day, and she was like, if something's not challenging you, it's not changing you. And so that's something that I feel like constantly lived my life by, is like, if you want to get better, how do you think that you get better at literally anything? Everybody who is incredible at their craft, incredible at what they do, has had to hone their skills. Some of the most incredible athletes, the most talented athletes, sure, they had natural abilities, but they worked hard to get better. They worked out hard, they practiced, they were in training camps more than anybody else was. They were on the court, off the court, practicing, doing all the things in order to get better. Same thing with business owners. They're putting in the reps, they're staying up late, they're working long hours, and that's how they get better at their craft. That's how they get through that sucky phase really fast, is because they're putting in the work. And so from that experience, I'm constantly reminded, it's a very clear lesson that the universe is still trying to teach me, because I feel like I come into contact with people who are constantly giving me this message of like, discomfort actually means you're growing. Discomfort actually means that like the results are on the way. I actually have another acquaintance in the online space who often talks about the fact that like the life you're living today is a result of the efforts that you put in 90 days ago, right? And so those efforts, the discomfort, that is something that you have to go through, and you get to look at it as like this really incredible growth opportunity, instead of like, ugh, I suck. It's like, actually, I'm just doing what it takes to get better right now. And in 90 days, I'm not going to suck because of the efforts that I've put in. And I want you to imagine, like, if I had basically just quit, like I make this joke with my trainer all the time, but like after we finish a set of really hard exercises, I'm like, okay, well, that was it for me. It was nice working with you, and like pretend like I'm going to walk out. But I need you guys to think about like, okay, what if I had basically been like, that was it for me. Like, peace out. I'm good. That was too hard. I'm not good at this. Therefore, I need to leave. It's like a toddler like storming off of the soccer field with a tantrum because they're not good at it right now, right? It's such a, I would say, like an immature mindset to have, which like I'm preaching to the choir right now because I'm still working through this myself. It's such an immature mindset to have this expectation that like as soon as you do something, you're going to be good at it. Or as soon as you do something, you're going to put the results in. Or excuse me, I'm going to say that again. Or as soon as you do something, the results are going to happen for you. It doesn't work like that. And also, I would say that's not the point. If you think that the point of being a business owner, if you think that the point of any of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis is to get results, you're going to be sorely disappointed in life. I am such a like get addicted to the process kind of person, because the process is what turns you into the person you need to become in order to achieve the goals or the results or the life that you've always wanted to live. Not the outcome. If you're like, okay, I want the outcome, fuck the process. Yeah, you'll eventually get there, but you're going to skip over all of these lessons that are so incredible that you could have learned along the way that probably would have gotten you to your goal faster, right? So instead of focusing on the outcome, and I know that this is like such a reverse of what so many people think, but like instead of focusing on the outcome, focus on the process. Yes, have your goals. Yes, have your outcomes in mind, and create a process that's going to get you to those goals. But every single day, instead of being like, well, I should be making this much money every single month, and I'm not. I should be getting this many leads, this many followers, my content should look like this. I should be able to lift this weight. I should be able to run this distance. I should be able to talk in front of this many people without getting nervous. Instead of saying those things to yourself, say like, I'm literally doing the things right this second that I need to do in order to get better and in order to become the person that I need to become in order to have the results that I want. That same acquaintance often says, if you don't have the business that you want, it's because you're not the person that you need to become in order to have that business, right? So something that I want to encourage you about is Excuse me. So something that I want to encourage you guys about is recognize that in order to achieve literally any results that you want, whether it's personal or professional, you have to embrace the suck. You have to go on that journey of getting better. You have to become that person who is worthy of those results and those goals. And the only way that you do that is by getting through the suck. Another example that I have of this is honestly posting 3 TikToks a day for 90 days with 0 results when I first started my TikTok account. Honestly, like I look back at my old content and I laugh a lot of times because it's just not something, number one, that I would ever post now. But I am really thankful that I kept it because it is such a cool representation of like what I went through, because I genuinely posted 3 TikToks a day for 90 days. And I was stuck in like the thousands views. At first it was like 90 views, then 200, 300, 600, 800. And I finally had one pop off, and it wasn't even a lot, you guys. It popped off, I'm pretty sure, to like 10.3K views or something like that. So I call that going mini viral, right? So it went mini viral. It got into like the 10,000s. But what I need you to understand is what I learned during those 90 days. It wasn't about the results that it created. I literally knew going into TikTok, I was like, it's gonna take me probably at least 90 days minimum to see the results that I want to see from this account, to even start building any sort of visibility. And I was like, so I guess I'm just going to put my blinders on and I'm just going to keep posting until something happens. I'm just going to keep going. And the question that I love to ask myself and other people is, how long can you go without seeing results? Really, truly, how long can you go? Because for a lot of people, it's like a week, which is insane. Because if you think about how much time it takes to establish a habit, to develop a skill, both of which you need in order to see results, to expect that you're gonna do something and immediately see a result is so unrealistic, you guys. Like, you can't have this expectation. You have to become addicted to the process. And so, yeah, I posted for 90 days on TikTok. And saw no results. And then I finally had one little video pop off, just the tiniest bit. And then the next week I had another one pop off, and then another, and then another. And my views slowly increased. And still to this day, you guys, we have videos that perform really, really well. But we'll also have videos like, I started a new series, which is like a day in the life of a CEO trying to reach her multi-million-dollar like sales goal by the end of the year, right? Which is just kind of more like day in the life content, because a lot of people were asking for that. But what I want you guys to understand is that we still have videos that are at like 300 views. But guess what? Our TikTok page, because of the strategy that we use and because of how consistent I am, has generated multiple millions of dollars in revenue for us, despite some of our videos being quote unquote lower in views. So you guys have this like outcome in mind, but you don't understand what it takes to get there. You're not focused on the process. You're just so laser focused on this one outcome that anytime it doesn't happen after you've been putting in the work, quote unquote, for a week, you're like, well, it's clearly not going to happen for me, so I should just like cut my losses and get out. What? It's been a week. That would basically be like you dating somebody for a week and you're like, this has been fun, but like you haven't asked me to marry you yet, so like, gotta go, right? No, you're literally just like getting to know each other. You're building the foundations of a relationship. You're building the foundations of habits and strategies of your marketing and your sales, of your audience and your brand recognition, of, you know, your personal like weightlifting journey. I don't care what example you want to use, but don't have the expectation that you're going to do something and immediately see results, because it takes time and you need to become the person that is worthy of those results first. So now that you understand the mindset shifts that I really like had to go through, I want to talk about like the 2 main points that I want you to take away from this podcast episode. Okay. So here's the reality of things. And I've kind of mentioned this a little bit, but this is a truth that you have to get into your brain. You can pick the results or you can pick the process, but guess what? You can't pick both. So here's what I mean by that. If you want to accomplish XYZ, if you want to create $20,000 in sales, $100,000 in sales, if you want to deadlift 150 pounds, if you want to run 8 miles, if you want to, have a really great work-life balance, you don't get to cherry pick what you do and don't get to get to that goal, because there's often a very specific process to get to that goal. I'm on the New York City Marathon TikTok algorithm right now, so I keep seeing all of these different videos of the New York City Marathon. Imagine if they were like, I want to run the New York City Marathon, and then it was like, okay, cool, you have to run like 26 miles or whatever it is, 24.6, I forget how many miles it is. It's like, okay, cool, you have to do that. And it's like, but I really only want to run like 3 miles. Can I do that? It's like, bitch, no. Like, you literally only get to pick the outcome or the process. You don't get both, because if you only want to run 3 miles, you can do that, but you're not going to run a marathon. And then if you want to run a marathon, you have to run way more miles than that, and you have to be okay with that process, because you're not going to like it, but you're going to like the outcome that you get. It's really funny because my therapist often tells me, she's like, listen, you can pick one of 2 options. You can't have both, but your choice is your choice and you don't get to complain about it. It's like, okay, for example, like if I want to grow as a person, or I want to overcome my like attachment issues or my relationship trauma or any of those things, if I want to do that, I have to change my behaviors. I have to change my thought process. I have to change the way that I operate, which is often not fun. And so I'll be like, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to communicate that because it makes me uncomfortable, or blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, then don't. I'm like, but I want to like heal my relationship trauma and all this different stuff. And she was like, okay, great, we can do that. But like, you're not going to like the process, but you don't get to bitch and moan about it. Pick one, and then you have to realize that that is your choice, but you don't get to complain about it. And I need you to understand that like the same is true about your marketing and your sales. There's one thing that I always say to people that you 100% need to be doing, that they roll their eyes at and they don't love when I say, but it is what is required in order to create really great movement and growth and visibility. And that's posting 3 TikToks per day. And it's really funny because when I have clients who come to me, we've already had this conversation before they start working with me of like, hey, listen, like this is going to be a requirement if you want to grow quickly. If you don't want to grow quickly, that's fine. Do 1 TikTok a day. But don't be like, why am I not getting more followers? Or why am I not getting more applications or leads or any of those things? Well, are you doing 3 TikToks a day? No. Okay, well, if you know that that's the thing that helps you grow the fastest and gets you more applications or leads or website traffic or sales, why are you complaining that you're not seeing that if you're not doing the thing that you need to do in order to see that result, right? The other component of this is a little bit more of like a mindset shift, like I was saying, that you're going to have to make in embracing that process that seems difficult to you to really like achieve a certain result. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, that is really learning to embrace the suck. So let's say, for example, you're like, okay, you know what? I know I have to do 3 TikToks a day in order to hit whatever goal that I have. But I've only been doing 1 like every couple of days, right? So for example, right now when I'm recording this, it's November, and for our accelerator clients, we're actually doing a November challenge that requires them to do 3 TikToks a day every single day. And it is absolutely doable. And if they do that, obviously they get like a prize and stuff, which is super cool and super exciting. But imagine if all of these clients that we have that are doing this November TikTok challenge and they're doing 3 TikToks a day, they're like, ugh, this is really, really hard. In fact, like we just had a call this morning and so many people were like, well, I did it. They weren't great, but I did it. And I was like, okay, amazing. But guess what? They're not gonna be great right now. They are going to suck because you've never done that many TikToks in 1 day before. And on top of that, you weren't even doing that many to begin with, so you weren't getting these reps in to get better. It's like if you did 1 push-up every 5 days versus 5 push-ups every day. How quickly do you think you would get better? Probably by the end of the first week, you could do it like bang all 5 out and not even struggle. But it would probably take you freaking 5 weeks to be able to do 5 all at once if you did 1 every 5 days, right? So putting the reps in helps you get better faster, but it's not going to be fun in the very beginning. And so that's where you have to embrace the suck and understand that that is part of the process and have that mindset shift of like, I'm doing the thing that's going to make me better at this, which ultimately means I'm going to create results faster. And even though it's not fun right now, I have to push through in order to get better. I have to tell you that like your life is going to be so much easier if you let go of this one thing, and that is your need to be good at everything that you do right off the bat. And coming from a perfectionist, like my blood boils literally just saying that, because my body loves to just like reject that. However, it is very true. And excuse me. Something that I have had to have conversation after conversation with about my clients is B+ content posted is going to get you better results than A+ content that sits in your drafts. And so many people will create content and edit it and edit it and edit it, or refilm and refilm and refilm over and over and over again, because it's never good enough for them. And because of that, they never create sales, because you need marketing in order to create sales. But if you had just put out the piece of content that was like really, really good, but not completely all the way there, that probably would have created results for you and you would have gotten better over time. This also translates to like being okay, I would say, with making mistakes. Here's the thing, you guys, I have made many a mistake in building this business, still do, literally to this day. In September, a couple months ago, I moved and I got insanely sick that month. And so that was like the first month in like years that I wasn't super consistent with TikTok and like our Instagram stories. And so that was like a quote unquote mistake that I made, that I hadn't like batched TikToks out or done all of the things that I knew I should have been doing to prepare like in advance for our marketing. And because of that, our application slightly dipped in September, and obviously we've recovered, but that was a mistake that I made. And I was kicking myself for so long, and I was having this conversation with somebody and they were like, you need to learn that like you have done so many cool things, but like that's a learning experience and you're still gonna have those 5 years in, and that is okay. It is okay to mess up. It's okay to make mistakes, because the good times are not what make me the business owner that I am today. It's the really hard times. It's the not being able to make payroll for 2 months. It's the trying to figure out why we weren't getting applications. It's the high amount of turnover for team members that we had a couple years ago, to now having such an incredibly robust and just solid team that has been with us for years and is so happy with the work that they do, right? Every single mistake. It's the hiring and the firing of clients. It's, you know, the client conflicts. It's all of the things. It's the contract issues. It's literally, you name it, and every mistake that I have made along the way has taught me something that has made me a better business owner. And so you look at that sucky phase of anything that you're doing, personally or professionally, being a business owner, you know, doing like lifting weights, anything that you're trying to do right now. And I need you to recognize that when you come out on the other side and you've pushed through that, not only are you going to believe in yourself so much more, you're going to have so much more confidence in what you're capable of, but on top of that, you are going to have so much more knowledge and wisdom that is going to make you the better version of yourself in whatever area it is that you are trying to accomplish. So with all that being said, really quickly, I want to move into kind of like what it takes to become someone who is successful in marketing and sales, someone who's successful in business, because I think that a lot of this kind of goes hand in hand, right? So if there is one word that I can use to describe being a business owner, it is uncomfortable. I think that you have to live and sit with your discomfort every second of every day, truthfully. Otherwise, you're going to become complacent and you're going to become comfortable and you won't be growing. My favorite saying, one of my favorite sayings, is that if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that that's so incredibly true, because if you are not growing, if you're not challenging yourself, if you're not getting uncomfortable, what are you doing? You're doing the same thing over and over again. How are you going to grow if you're doing the same thing over and over again? It's like saying, they always say like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's literally it. I need you guys to understand that like staying in your comfort is truly the killer of like your highest potential. So I want to encourage you, and this is honestly something that I do, avoid comfort at all costs. Like the second that you're feeling nice and like cushy in your business, there's more. There's literally so much more that you could be doing. Challenge yourself. It's like the second that I start to like feel like I've mastered a workout or like an exercise that we do, my trainer ups the weights and I'm like, so you just want to make it hard for me again? And she's like, yeah, you just want it to like be easy. You're not going to get muscles from it being easy. Like last night, even, for example, we were doing like an arm press or whatever. Don't ask me what it's called. I just do whatever she tells me to do. But we were doing like an arm press exercise, and I did 10 for the first set. And she was like, that looked really easy. Like almost like you could go up in weight. And I was like, no, it was actually really hard. She's like, no, we're going to go up. I'm like, I don't want to. Please don't make me. And she's like, nope, we're going to do it. And guess what? I did it. And my arms really hurt today. But you know what? You don't get guns. Can I say that? I don't know. I don't want to get canceled. You don't get really big arm muscles constantly just lifting the same amount of weights. And the same goes for your business. One of the key reasons why I've created the success that I have is, like I said, I'm very hard on myself, but I am constantly chasing growth. If there is a question that I will ask of literally anyone in my circle, it's how can I be better? How can I grow? What areas am I not seeing? Like, what am I missing that I need to be better at? Where are my blind spots so that I can grow more and more and more? Another thing that I would say I would avoid at all costs is like fear of criticism and negativity. So this kind of goes in line with exactly what I was just saying, is like, I look for criticism. I ask for it. I don't look for negativity, but I literally will ask people, I'm like, rip me a new one. Like, tell me literally where I can be better. Tell me where I can improve. Tell me how I can be better. And I think that it's really interesting because a lot of people fear criticism or fear negativity, that they didn't do something perfectly. And so because of that, they'll face like some sort of negative external consequence, like hateful comments or like a negative situation with a client or any of those things. But that is an opportunity for improvement. And if there's one thing that's for certain, it's that like these situations are truly unavoidable in business. Negativity, criticism, any of those things. Like nobody who has a successful business walks away unscathed by clients, customers, team members, the general public, your audience on social media, literally anything. Like if a client gives you like a piece of feedback that's hard to hear, ask yourself if there's any truth to that. Ask yourself if that's genuinely something that you need to take to heart so that you can improve things and have a better client experience for the next person. And then, bring in more clients because you've improved client experience, right? If you didn't get the sale, on to the next. If you got negative hate comments, nothing to do with me. That's probably Gary living in his mom's basement who just likes to troll me all the time, right? Learn what is valid criticism and what is just negativity and irrelevant, and embrace the valid criticism. I look at literally everything as a learning opportunity. You ultimately decide, you guys, how you're going to handle these things. Are you going to quit because of it? Because I'm telling you right now, like this is literally just the realities of being a business owner. So I think you need to understand this is what is going to be your journey. Like you need to understand that you're going to go through these growing pains in order to ultimately get to the life that you want. And so you have to ask yourself, are you going to quit because of it? Or are you going to adopt a growth mindset? Are you going to embrace these experiences to grow? And embrace the discomfort, embrace the suck. What are you going to do? And I think the last thing that I've noticed from a lot of people is fear of risk. This is a big one. And if any of you guys have been thinking of risks to take, whether it be a new product or service to put into your product suite, making an investment into support, hiring on a team member, literally anything, right? If you're considering that risk, you're probably going to feel a little called out, but that's okay. The fear of any risk is truly what holds people back. And I don't want to look back on myself in like 60 years and be living a mediocre life and be like, the reason why I'm here is truly because I was scared. I think that like this is something that really hits home for me personally because I've had a lot of really challenging experiences in life, specifically with like romantic relationships. Obviously, you guys know I was divorced at a very young age, and that experience really formed my perception of healthy relationships and love and what's possible. And I've had one other very significant relationship that was very toxic that ended. And that also as well formed a lot of my opinions around love and things like that. What it is and what it isn't, what's possible when it comes to like commitment and monogamy and just different things like that. And I was having this conversation actually with my therapist freaking on Friday. So like, this is something I'm still working through, is like, after those experiences, being in a healthy relationship is so triggering because you're constantly scared of like what could happen. It's the what ifs, right? And she said something to me where she was like, okay, so if you're scared of these experiences, are you really going to let your past experiences be the thing that prevents you from potentially having a really happy and loving and fulfilling partnership in the future? I'm like, well, no, in theory, that sounds stupid, right? But it's easier said than done when it comes to like overcoming that. And so now, being in the early stages of like a very healthy relationship, I literally have to sit there when things will happen and I get triggered and be like, this is not about them. This is about me. Like, what is the reality here? What's facts? And what's literally just my past experiences coming up. And I have to literally like self-soothe and remind myself of the truth and like move forward accepting that new reality, because that is the only way that I'm going to change and grow and develop and eventually have what I want, which is like a healthy partnership, right? The same goes for being a business owner and being scared of risks. I think the biggest thing that I hear from people is that, you know, they've made an investment in the past that didn't work out the way that they wanted it to. You know, they ended up quote unquote wasting a bunch of money, which I actually do not believe in that theory. I think every investment actually teaches you a lot, regardless of whether or not it's like a financial ROI. I think it really does give you a lot of ROI. But with that being said, I do think that a lot of people are scared to make another investment because of experiences that they've had. And I know from my personal investment journey, I made a really bad investment. And then literally the next investment that I made was my business coach, who I've been with for like 3 years at this point. And she's phenomenal and incredible and like become one of my dearest friends. And so I think that you have to decide if you're going to let the fear of risk or the fear of your past experiences happening again hold you back from making investments or taking risks that are necessary as a business owner, because the most successful business owners are not the ones that play it safe. There's always an element of risk of being a business owner. And sometimes you can make it an educated risk. You can do your due diligence and do your homework and make sure you do all your research to make sure the investment or the decision that you're making is the one that's going to give you ROI. But sometimes at the end of the day, you can prepare as much as you possibly could ever want and still not have a positive outcome or the outcome that you were looking for, right? So I need you guys to understand that risk is inevitable if you're a business owner. When you're a business owner, risk is inevitable. That's literally what you are signing up for. And so I need you guys to understand that it is your job to mentally help yourself overcome the fear that you have of being burned by taking that risk. Do your due diligence, do as much as you possibly can, and then move forward with that decision. That's literally it. So just in closing, I hope you enjoyed me just like basically yelling at you for 45 minutes. I need you guys to understand that in order to become a successful business owner, you need to embrace the suck. You're going to have to embrace risk. You're going to have to embrace criticism and negativity. And you're also going to have to decide what you want to focus on, the results or the process. It's your choice. But recognize that no matter what you do, it's still a choice. I need you guys to understand that like you are solely responsible for your results. Literally nobody else. You're responsible for removing any mental blocks. You're responsible for taking educated risks. You're responsible for showing up. You're responsible for staying consistent. You're responsible for powering through the sucky parts of being a business owner, of developing a habit or a skill or any of those things. And once you're able to do that, you are going to be, like I said, such a better version of yourself that is ready to welcome in that really exciting result that you just powered through. And honestly, it's going to taste so much better than if you were just like naturally talented and were able to achieve it like that. So with that being said, if any of you guys are struggling with any of these things mindset wise and you just want to chat it out with somebody, I'm always here for you guys, because trust me when I say the only reason I can speak to these things is because I have personally gone through them. many, many times, and I am still learning these lessons, honestly. So I would be happy to share more about my experiences. My DMs are always open, but if you have questions about embracing the suck, mindset, powering through, consistency, drive as a business owner, any of those things, let me know. And we'll chat soon. And I am so excited to see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.